Let's dive straight into the deep end of ontology today in this explainer and explore the absolute centerless ground of reality that Madhyamaka calls the flux. Now, since you're already familiar with Nagarjuna's foundational deconstructions, we definitely aren't going to relitigate the basics of emptiness here. Instead, we're looking at the exact nature of what actually remains when the dust of all our deconstructed concepts finally settles. What is the actual fabric of reality? Well, we're going to explore this flux and exactly how it relates to suchness, the union of the two truths, and the conceptual maps we relentlessly project right on top of it.
To get a feel for this, picture this metaphor which perfectly illustrates our foundational ignorance. Imagine you're standing right in the middle of a powerful, rushing river. You're completely immersed in the water, but instead of moving with the current, you are panicking. You're desperately trying to grab the flowing water and freeze it into solid, permanent ice cubes. Also, you can build a safe, static little house right there in the middle of the rapids. It's a completely exhausting, utterly futile attempt to freeze a dynamic, limitless cycle of conditioning into, well, permanent boxes. And honestly, this is exactly what we do with reality every single day.
Section 1. Anatomy of the flux.
We really have to define this flux not as some suffocating nihilistic void, but as the actual ontological ground zero. It's an ongoing, centerless, and boundless empty process of causation. Think of it as a nonlinear, multidimensional network of relationships. It's a beautifully turbulent, rushing river of cause and effect, completely devoid of fixed, independent entities. There are no permanent souls here, no inherently existent atoms. It is just the continuous, dependently co-arising process of existence itself, breathing and flowing.
Section 2. Nouns, verbs, and emptiness.
Now, when we've finally managed to let go of solid objects, our intellect desperately scrambles to find a new anchor. And this leads to a super common philosophical trap that advanced students fall right into. Listen, you cannot simply replace a universe of solid nouns with a universe of solid verbs. I know it's incredibly tempting to say, everything is just an action. But as Nagarjuna proved time and time again, relations and actions are just as empty of inherent essence as the nouns they supposedly connect. You can't just turn the concept of a process into a brand new god. The flux isn't a collection of absolute verbs. The whole shebang is entirely empty of all inherent essence.
Section 3. The union of two truths.
So how does this empty process actually function without collapsing into a giant paradox? Well, we have to apply the union of the two truths directly to the river itself. On the conventional side, T1, the flux is a highly functional, causal, rushing river. Karma absolutely works. Actions definitely have consequences. But ultimately, on the T2 side, it's entirely empty of inherent essence. There is no fixed owner traveling through this river, and there's no rigid substance making up the water. And this brilliantly illustrates the harmony here. The ultimate emptiness of rigid substance is the exact necessary flexibility that allows the conventional river to functionally flow at all. Without emptiness, it would literally be paralyzed.
Section 4. Samsara and nirvana are one.
Think about it. If the flux is just this boundless, empty flow of causality, what exactly is the difference between the suffering of samsara and the freedom of nirvana? This right here triggers the ultimate epistemic pivot. Nagarjuna drops an absolute bombshell to prove that they are the exact same raw material. You don't annihilate samsara to magically teleport into some static fortress called nirvana. No way. They share the exact same boundless, centerless flux of existence.
What this means is that the boundary is entirely epistemic, not ontological. It is all about how you perceive, not what inherently exists. Ignorance is just this limitless, interdependent flux viewed through a horribly distorted lens of inherent existence. It's standing in that river, demanding ice cubes. Wisdom, on the other hand, is experiencing that exact same river, that exact same flux, clearly, without projecting a solid self and without demanding some permanent essence. The reality itself doesn't change one bit, your relationship to it does.
Section 5. Maps versus the territory.
So if samsara is merely an epistemic distortion, how do we end up so incredibly disconnected from the true nature of the flux? Well, because we simply cannot cognitively process a limitless, fractal, karmic cycle where everything is conditioning everything else in an endless web. Our minds frantically superimpose conceptual ice cubes right onto the inconceivable ground. We generate dualities like self and other. We build those triads we've talked about, the acquirer, the acquiring, and the acquired. We invent speculative views about eternalism or nihilism. Even our most sacred analytical models, yes, even the 12 links, are ultimately just ice cubes. They are conceptual proliferation designed to make the chaos navigable.
And this brings us to a major vulnerability in the human condition. The fatal flaw of the human intellect is mistaking our incredibly useful navigational maps for the ultimate territory itself. We draw these brilliant conceptual lines just to survive, and then we immediately forget that we're the ones who drew them, treating them as if they're physical brick walls. When we demand that our dependently co-arisen, conventional concepts perfectly describe the inconceivable, empty flux of reality as it is, we just end up forcefully bumping our heads against our own fabricated lines.
Section 6. Abiding in Suchness.
Transcending these maps brings us to the ultimate synthesis, which is often called Suchness. Now, Suchness is not some mystical, separate realm glowing off in the distance. It is simply this very flux. It's the dependently arisen empty ground of reality, engaged dynamically, with absolutely no reification, no attachment, and zero demand for permanence. It is perceiving the river exactly as it is, primordially equal, dynamic, and totally complete.
And this is absolutely crucial to the whole framework. The two layers, our conceptual maps and the empty ground of suchness, are not in opposition. You don't have to violently destroy your concepts to achieve wisdom. True liberation is simply abandoning the demand for permanence. It's seeing entirely through those useful conceptual maps while you use them, and abiding dynamically within the beautiful flux. You transcend the maps not by throwing them in the trash, but by seeing right through their empty nature.
Once you really know that the map is never the territory, you're no longer trapped by the lines you drew yesterday. If every concept you hold about your own identity is just a dependently co-arisen map, then you are completely free to dynamically participate in the continuous unfolding of reality. So, here's what it all comes down to. Will you keep exhausting yourself trying to freeze the river into solid blocks of certainty? Or will you finally let go, step into suchness, and let reality be the boundless, beautiful flux that it actually is?